That's what Nike says. You just do it. Do it. Come on, do it.
Their slogan is so profound.
Do it. It should be him saying it. That character should be the guy saying the Nike slogan.
But most people ain't doing it.
Just do it.
And they're doing it, they ain't doing it right.
Do
Doing it
Just do it.
right. Are you doing it and doing it and doing it right?
Just do it.
Who's doing it right?
Do
you
it.
doing it right? Oh, are we doing it right? Are you doing it right?
No right or wrong.
Who's doing it right?
No right or wrong. It's just perspective.
Well, there is such a thing as right and wrong when it comes to how you operate.
Well, not really. It's just what's more effective and what's not effective.
So technically with systems, there would be
More
right and
effective.
wrong. Yeah. So if someone like Gary Vaynerchuk is using a system that's worked and proven to work and I didn't use that, it would be wrong.
I would just say it's a more effective, proven system. That's the language I would use.
Yeah. But for me, I just like using the word wrong because you're right, it's not right and wrong. But when it comes to operating in systems, there is the difference between being right and wrong. There's people that have done
It's just
things.
more effective. There's different systems that work for different teams. If you look at sports teams, they don't all have the same offense and the same defense.
And they don't work because the Belichick, exactly. Look at the Patriots. They use the system that works.
For them.
It's the same system that Gary Vee uses. It's being insurgent. It's the same thing the military
It all
uses.
depends, too, on your team.
If you want to win or
So you got
succeed.
7-footers. Houston plays a small ball versus you could go big with fucking...
But actually, no, it doesn't. That's it's the principles over the personalities and the characteristics.
Well, I'm just saying, if you look at different sports teams, they have different offenses. Not every team runs the West Coast offense.
But the
For
point
example.
is, the offense that wins is the best offense.
Not
Correct.
necessarily. They just attack.
All right, let's go
They
live.
give them what the defense gives
Are you
them.
ready?
I am live.
You are live?
But every NFL team doesn't run the same offense or defense.
That's exactly the point. If they did and they looked at what the Patriots do, the issue is that you're talking about personalities over principles. All right, we're going live any second. I'm turning on the camera.
necessarily agree with that.
All right,
I just think
then let's lean into that and talk about it on the show.
Well, that's not what we're talking about.
I would love to talk about more of that.
We can, but we got plenty of episodes to talk about, bro. Let's talk about patience. We're not gonna.
You just brought this up.
Well, I know I did, but trust me, we got plenty of different topics to talk about. Let's talk about patience.
Hello, folks.
Because we have not talked about
H-E-L-L-O.
patience. And I think it's a great topic.
I love you all, man.
Because we live in such a speedy world where everyone wants it now.
I've been having such a great day. The last 72 to 96 hours, I've just been really grateful in a really good space. I'm just so thankful for everyone that's in my life. And I did an episode yesterday with with Del Bacon, and I said Bob's name. And I was just listing the stuff, and when I look back on my journey, where I am, and what I've learned, what I've got, what I have become. There's just so many people along the way that I have to give credit and give a mention to. It's just so remarkable where I am and how I've gotten here and the things I've been through and the people that have helped me along the way. All the help from the sculptor Katie Sculpts in Hawaii, the help from Bob Monahan at the Hostel du Nord, the help from my dad, the help from my brothers. Shout out to Solomon and Zaya, brother Uno. The help from my father. Shout out to Ben Weirman at A Better Craftsman. The help from everyone along the way. When you realize how much good there is in the world, I think a big part of the media and the written word, the photo, and the video in 2020 is for us to believe it's not possible to unite and it's not possible to come together. When I intrinsically think, as humans, we all have an amazing, natural, intrinsic gut instinct that we want to do good and we want to unite and we don't want to fight. So I just want to say thank you to everyone along the way that has helped me. There's a long list I could lean into. Tom Wallace at Edge Home Finance. Even if things didn't end well and our communication has now been non-existent, there's just so many people. But especially the people that are listening today, including Duluth, Washington, Virginia, Minneapolis, and the Twin Cities, St. Paul, France, Clichy, I don't know how to say the name, Clichy, LD, France, Chicago, Illinois, Ashburn, Virginia, Boardman, Oregon, North Shores, Michigan, the Philippines, Columbus, Ohio, and specifically Atlanta, Georgia. I just want to say thanks to all of you that are downloading, listening, and watching, and continue to be loyal supporters of the Weirman Media brand and the Two Brothers Duo, because your trust and your loyalty as well as your support is a big part of what we do here. So, how are you doing today, Zaya?
Doing good. Happy Monday, guys. Like my brother says, thank you for listening. It's always good to, gratitude is the key to happiness and abundance. And the more grateful I have, the more gratitude I have, the more abundance I receive. That's just my experience. Some might like to call that karma, but I just like to look at that as if I'm already full, my cup is more full as I get more abundance and more
Double
things.
cup.
And more things that I'm grateful for. So that's the key, is gratitude, man. And sometimes gratitude is not what I don't have, too. I can't always look at, if I'm always looking at what I don't have, then I'm not practicing gratitude. And if I'm focusing on what I already have, then I have gratitude. And I think this kind of leans into the topic of patience is if I'm grateful, I am more patient. This is my experience. Like, again, this isn't like a rule that I'm speaking of that other people should follow or their experience. I'm simply saying from my experience, when I practice gratitude, I end up having more patience because I don't need to rush to get where I need to go because I don't feel like I don't have it. In fact, the law of abundance in practicing gratitude means I already have it. It's going to happen. I believe it's going to happen because there's a limited amount of abundance, there's a limited amount of resources, a limited amount of opportunity, there's a limited amount of goodwill. So no matter what doesn't work out essentially in this moment, I'm still grateful and I still believe I'm going to get where I need to be no matter how that looks like. I'm not trying to create a preconceived condition or a preconceived situation or solution today, and I'm not trying to bulldoze or rush it. I'm trusting the process and I'm grateful throughout the whole time. So I always end up getting where I need to be when I need to be there with whoever I need to do that with. And to me, that's like the ultimate beauty of gratitude and abundance that gives me patience. For me, that's what gives it to me. But there's a flip side to that too. And I'm guilty of all this. Everything I talk about, I'm guilty of this. At some point in my life, I've done this. Patience also is a balance. There's always two sides to a coin. This is what I love. I really believe that. This is what open-mindedness and perspective is always attaching both sides of the coin and looking at it. Patience, I believe, is good, but also if you're too patient, this is my experience, it's almost borderline procrastination where you're being too patient and you're not taking action. So there's a key from my experience. Well, I felt this in my life where there's patience is good, but this also requires action. So I can't be too extremes. It's not healthy. If I'm trying to bulldoze through everything.
Thanks for being with us, Nicholas.
Thank you. Before I get there, and I feel like I need to rush to get there because I feel like I'm not full, because I feel like I don't have everything I need. I feel like that's going to make me happier. That end game, end result versus the process to get there, that's not good. And it's also not good if I'm so patient that I'm not taking any action and I'm just sitting around. And I've done both those in my life. So for me, it's that medium balance where you're content and happy, like my brother talks about, but you're also taking action. So it's like you can be content and work hard and be patient at the same time. So these aren't like black and white things that you're either content or you're not, or you're patient or you're not. And just because you're working hard means you're not patient. So it's all about the process of being aware of like, how are you working every day? Are you ego driven? Or are you being patient and having micro speed and macro patience that Gary Vee talks about? And the audit and awareness on this is just to be able to ask myself, which end of the spectrum am I on? How can I get in the middle? What do I need to do to get in the middle where I'm working but I'm patient? Because I've gone to both extremes in my life, and when I get in that middle, that's when I'm happy, and I feel like I'm starting to feel that fire and that spirit inside of me working when I do that in my life. Whether it's for a business or in the gym or in a relationship or in recovery or spirituality or nutrition, anything I'm doing, I need to be rooted in that middle where I'm patient, macro patience, and micro speed. And it's not easy to stay there, but the more I do that, the easier it is for me to be there. That's my experience on this both ends, and I'm sure my brother has a lot to touch on his experience and what he thinks about what I just said. But that basically sums the entire thing up for me.
I think that's really great insight, but I want to lean into what Weirman Media is currently about and what we want to be about moving forward. At Weirman Media and everything that I've ever done, my patience comes from my commitment to myself. When I'm courageous, committed, focused, open, and respectful of the process and the people I work with, I then in turn have the patience. And it all comes back to me loving the process and loving what I'm doing and doing what I love. If you love what you're doing and doing what you love and you're doing it for you, you no longer have to rush anything. Like when I ran a moving company, I was having to sell stuff because I was doing it for someone else. I was doing it for the money. I was doing it for the society. So then I was put in a position fiscally where I had to sell things. I had to scale. I had to operate. I had to hire. The question is, it all comes back to, are you focused? Are you committed to yourself? Are you courageous in pursuing your dreams? Are you open to what the world and what the society is going to bring you? And are you respectful of what it is bringing you? And are you respectful of the people that you are working with? Ultimately, are you committed to yourself? Most people are falling short when they look at, are you committing to your dreams and your passions and pursuing them? And are you loving the process and are you doing what you love? Because if you're doing it for you, it becomes less about when and it becomes now. Because when I'm doing this for me now at Weirman Media, everything else outside of this doesn't matter anymore because I'm doing it for me. But if I start doing it for you or the society, then I start to feel like I have to make more money, I have to scale it, I have to grow it, and I have to be this big shot with a big ego dick out there that's the big dog, that's the big champ, that's the guy that has it all with the fancy car and the fancy clothes and the rings and the jewelry, and it's less about me and it's more about them. So I think, to me, that's what I think about is the commitment I'm giving to myself. And it seems like it's really hard for people to commit to themselves, but then if you're not committing to yourself, how are you committing to anything else?
Yeah, that's a good point.
Because if you're not committing to your wants, needs, and desires, you have no way of ever meeting other people's wants, needs, and desires. If I'm not committing to mine, how am I ever going to show up in a relationship? And I think this is a big topic here to lean into with our problems in the world, because if you're not capable of meeting your own wants, needs, and desires, and pursuing your passions, and pursuing your dreams, and doing what you love, and loving what you do, and loving the process, then how are you going to be able to commit to someone else for that journey?
That goes back to gratitude again, though. That's really what I think this is rooted in, because what you described is true.
I think it
comes,
comes back to humility.
But that outer layer stuff that you're talking about is all good, but you could do all that and still be doing it without gratitude. So, like, there's not going to be patience. So, like you're saying, the patience, like you're saying, what you just said, you're patient where you're at because you're not being forced to do something because of an external factor that you feel is influencing you. So it's putting you in a space where you're patient because you're already in a good place. So I think that's key, what you said. And I feel like it's impossible to get there without gratitude. And like my brother just said, humility. I really feel like I have to get to gratitude and humility to be there. And I also feel like this is what I've had to do to get to my certain places. And this is what my brother says. I really feel like it is rooted in trying different things.
Tasting. You can't know you like
so you
steak
can't
until you
so
taste it.
I feel like the humility and the gratitude and the patience that I've always achieved and getting to a place like my brother just described where he's at requires tons of tasting. Some people it's less tasting, some people it's more, but from my experience, and my brother's the same way, we've tasted different things. That's how we've gotten to different places. Like, I have never been able to get where I want to go without testing different things. So for me, the patience also is being able to allow yourself to try different things, to do that.
And fail and be bad,
so,
or
like,
make a mistake, or not do
I think
well.
trying something out for 6 months to a year is a great timeline that I've done. That no matter when I'm doing something, I try to give it at least 6 months up to a year before I make any major decisions if I'm going to leave or quit. But in that timeline, I usually can get a good idea if it's something that I want to keep doing or not, or it's something I realize I don't want to do anymore. But I can also take from that experience and shed a layer of I know what I don't want to be, and I could use what I learned and grow from that and apply that to something else and keep moving forward. And I think you eventually get to a place like what my brother just described, where you know where you want to be and you know what you want to do and you're aware of how to be committed to yourself, and you can be committed to yourself so then you can commit to others as well. But I also think a part of all this process is humility, to be able to allow yourself to fail and try different things, because that's where the patience is. If I'm just always trying to bulldoze through things or do everything because I need to look like it's perfect, because I need to sell this and have this or do this and have that image like my brother described, it's really going to be hard for me to have patience, because that's all ego driven. So for me, and then I'll let my brother chat here because it sounds like he's got a good point to make, is that gratitude and humility is what's rooted in everything for me. And then no matter what I'm doing, I'm really not mad or angry or upset if it doesn't work out, because everything that I've done forces me to grow and learn, and it makes me evolve, and I can bring that on to the next stage of my life, whatever it is that I'm doing. So if you can look at everything as a learning and growth experience and bring gratitude and humility into it, it's going to allow that patience to come in. But again, it does require, like my brother said, humility and gratitude. Those are the two rooted principles, I think, for me, to have patience. And if I don't have patience, I end up pushing people and things away, and I don't end up being the best me if I'm trying to just make it about me and my image and my ego.
So here's a big thing you just touched on I want to lean into. It's a lot of people look at life like it's a race. And this is thanks to Gary Vaynerchuk and VaynerMedia for all of the value. One day, I'm just going to cut them such a fat fucking check, it's not even going to be funny. But VaynerMedia gives me this perspective, and he, based on his experience, he's in his mid-50s, and he now...
Actually, he's in his mid-40s.
He's actually... Isn't he in his 50s now?
No, he's still in his mid-40s. I think
positive?
he's 44 only.
I'm almost certain Gary V's in his 50s.
No, he's not.
But either way...
We can make a side bet if you want.
All right, let's do that. It's Friendly Fiver. So...
Friendly Fiver live on the air!
This is not a race. Life is not a finish line. There is no journey. And what Gary V says is the same thing. He's like... Once you realize it's about being insurgent versus rigid and bureaucratic, it's about staying as close as you can to the hustle, to the struggle, and to the climb. Once you realize what he says is so true, Gary's like, I want to stay as close as I can to the process. And I myself love the process of growing and evolving, so it makes sense. Like, I would never want to be done. I would never want to be there. I'm always going to be pursuing going somewhere or adapting or growing or evolving. So once everything is perfect in my life, where I would say, everyone, whatever your perfect is, picture it, you guys. What are you going to do then? Because for me, I'm going to keep looking back at ways that I can stay as close as I can to growth and evolution and adaptation, which requires me to love the process. I love the journey of growing. So that's exactly it. Then you realize there's nowhere to go. There's nowhere to go, guys. Women and ladies and gentlemen, whatever you identify as, there's nowhere to go. We are it. We're living it. The now. What is it that brings you happiness, joy, and fulfillment and purpose in life? And then that is your now. That's what you live for. That's what you live through. There's no journey and there's no finish line. There's nothing where you get there and you're like, oh, it's over. It's done. Besides death and being born, those are the only two things. Other than that, you're never going to finish the race. There's no finishing this race. So what are you pursuing? Everyone is addicted. It all comes back to our misperception of time and speed with patience. We all have a misperception and unhealthy relationship with time and speed.
I think I have a challenge, and this is how I've reverse engineered patience and gratitude and happiness, because I do think there's there's two sides to this coin. So there requires action no matter what you want to do to get where you want to go. But there's a flip side. I believe before anyone does anything, I don't care if you don't even know who you are. And if you know what you want to do, I don't even care if you're doing no action. I think it's important to find happiness and gratitude and contentment no matter where you're at. Because if you don't do that, from my experience, if I don't do that first, even if I know where I want to go, I'm never going to get there if I'm so rooted in regret and shame or guilt or FOMO or my ego or yada yada, all these negative things. I could even know what I want to do, but if I'm in that energy, in that space, I'm never going to be able to be the best me. So what I found for me is no matter what I'm doing, getting into a space where I'm grateful for where I'm at, and I already feel like I have abundance, and I feel like there's tons of opportunities, even though I might have messed up 100 times already, or I haven't done what I wanted to do, or whatever, I haven't ask someone for help, or maybe I don't even know who I am. Either way, I need to be in great gratitude first, and I need to be able to have a positive attitude that there's tons of opportunities, and I also need to have humility, like my brother says, and be able to own that I am where I am because of me and no one else. That is super important, and that was what has changed me dramatically from getting sober and learning that I had to do that in my life when I got sober. And then no matter where I've been in my life, maybe when it comes to not being happy with a job or a career, like I've had to accept where I've been and where I was at, and that's the humility. And then the gratitude is, oh, well, everything's in life's a learning lesson. I can always pivot and move and change at any time. So for me, if I'm not in humility or gratitude, it doesn't matter what else I do. In my opinion, I'll never get there. I will never be happy, because guess what? I'm going to get that situation that my brother described, but I'm still going to make up a reason why it's not okay.
So this is why
I'll still make up an excuse of why I'm not happy. This person's not there. That, like, you know what I mean? Like, my brother knows what I'm talking about. Like, gratitude and happiness and humility is what allows whatever I'm going to be there. But if I'm not there, it doesn't matter what I'm doing.
So
I'm never going to be patient. I'm never going to be happy.
Right. So it all comes back to that's why
that's the misperception of time and speed, like you're saying. That's what that's rooted in.
All of my ability to succeed in life has come down to my ability to live a humble, minimalistic life. If I wasn't willing at 21 to live out of a car and modify my Subaru, or live out of a tent in Honolulu, oh, that rhymed. Live out of my car in my modified Subaru
in Honolulu. Drinking Yoo-hoo.
So, drinking
well, bumping woo.
So, and if I wasn't willing to sacrifice and be committed, I didn't realize how much of all these 5 characteristics that are scientific, empirical-based characteristics that I had going for me at a young age, but I was 100% committed to being different. I was 100% committed to being humble and living my life however I wanted, so I had control of my time and my money. I think everything that my brother touches on comes back to just this, our willingness to live a more humble life and be more committed with our resources into us. A lot of us, I challenge everyone based on patience in this whole topic to be more committed with your time and energy to you. Because if auditing our time and our energy, most of us are investing it in something else outside of ourselves, our dreams, our passions, our wants, our needs, and our desires. So how are you investing your time, your energy, and your money in your wants, needs, and desires? And at the end of the day, that will correlate with how much patience you have.
And gratitude, because you have to do that
humility.
But you have to do that with gratitude. Otherwise, in my opinion, it won't work. Like, again, those extremes that I talked about have to be, that's the center what you just described is is the center that I was describing. You have to do all those things that my brother says with being in the center. Anytime I fall off that, and this is rooted in my spirituality, this is why my meditation and
spiritual principles
is what comes first. Because if I fall off, I naturally go to extremes. I naturally will go to someone who's ego driven and doing everything that way, and I'm not grateful or humble, or I'll be extremely procrastinate and on the other end. So for me to be in the middle, the spiritual principles of humility and gratitude are the key that allow me to do what my brother just says. And anytime I fall off that, it's because I'm not in gratitude and I'm not in humility. I'm in ego, or I'm in, what's the word I'm thinking of? What's the opposite of gratitude where you always feel like you don't have enough?
I have no idea.
It starts with the S. Scarcity. Bam. That's the thing.
Bam.
That's what I've been thinking of. Scarcity. So you
got
can't be in abundance or gratitude and scarcity. So this is key. So like my brother says, to be living in a car like he described and be willing to do that,
I had abundance.
He didn't view himself as scarce because he didn't have this X, Y, B, Z, or Z.
I was content being different.
Exactly. So the scarcity model, this is what addiction is, really. My entire addiction, I was scarce. I never, ever had gratitude, and it never was enough. So no matter what came my way, it never worked out. I never had patience. I was always restless, irritable, and discontent, as they say. So to get to that place where scarcity doesn't exist, where it's only abundance, it's a really good place to be.
And that's why I talk so much about humility and auditing our income and our actions.
But it's hard to do that.
Because if you can gain control of your time and your money, then and your energy, you in turn have accountability, responsibility, and empowerment. Because if you turned on this picture and you painted this picture where tomorrow everyone was doing what they wanted with who they want, where they want, for how long they want, the who, the what, the when, the where, the why, then now they're in control. Now they have no one else to blame. Now they have nothing else to blame. But that's the issue. Everyone wants a scapegoat. No one wants to look at themselves in the mirror and look at themselves and say, it was on me. I failed. It's accountable. I'm accountable. I own my shit. I own my failures. That's why I talk so much about my failures, because I own them. And when I own them, I'm now accountable to them, and I take the power away from the fear and insecurities of them. And then I can move forward, taking action and committing to myself via humility and comfort being different. The problem is everyone glorifies and fantasizes about being different, but then they don't want to be the one that's patient, content, focused, committed, courageous, sacrificing, and doing the most, and doing it with the least. So everyone wants they want all the glory, they want all the fame, and they want all the money, and they want all the cars, the clothes, the jewelry, the women. They want all the plane flights. They want everything. I'm living in a single cot at the Hostel du Nord. Shout out to the Hostel du Nord. If you audited my life, I'm the one that has probably lived the most minimally. I've lived on the streets. I've lived in cars. I've lived in tents. I've lived in jails. I've lived in, you name it. I've lived minimally. It doesn't take much money to be a part of society. So when you realize it doesn't take much money to be part of society, you then can start getting ahead and building a nest egg. But it all comes down to patience, action, commitment, focus, courage, respect, and openness to be willing to be open and courageous and focused on doing these things. The problem is no one wants to look at themselves in the mirror and be accountable, responsible, and empowered.
So you talked about a lot of stuff there, but to keep it on patience, which is the topic, I think the main... I know, but to really narrow it in, I think we can narrow it down to one or two things. And I really think the big thing is... what the thought that came to my brain when you were just kind of talking there was on a previous episode where we talked about expectations. And I think this is the number one reason that I think is why, and this is just a thought in my brain, like we go live here, my brother and I don't have...
L-I-V-E.
We don't really have like a script here. We just go live. And in this moment, I just thought of expectations that we talked about for an entire episode. And I think this is my insight that I just thought of, that the reason why we don't have patience is because we talk about what society puts expectations on us. It's a pressure that it doesn't allow the young people
to be them,
to have this patience to be them. Like we said, like
to
fail and do it. Like to me, this is what I believe, that the pressure in my 20s that I still didn't listen to it fully, but I still kind of did, because there's just this pressure in your brain that you feel like because everyone else is doing these things, so it's like it's so wrong. The pressure of trying to get married and have kids or have a degree and buy a house and have a perfect life by the time you're 25. That's, I believe, why it's so difficult for people to have patience, because there's just pressure that America is selling us on, and people feel from their parents and the education system, and that you need to do all this. So that's like, oh, that means we need to be in a hurry, right? And then technology, we're so addicted to technology now and connected that all that pressure is, you see it way more often than you would before the internet. So now it's not only your family, your friends, and your circle, but all this shit on the media is being projected on you, but no one's projecting stories of authenticity and vulnerability and fear like my brother talks about. So for me, that's the insight that I just realized live now that I believe is one of the biggest things is that the society's pressure or expectations put onto us has what's created the lack of patience. And then social media thrown in there where we see everyone else living the image lifestyle that creates another layer of pressure that we feel like we have to live up to versus realizing that that sell is false, that we don't have to do that. And I think once you can believe that, like my brother says, and not buy into that, the pressure's gone because you realize for me that it's just like a sell. It's just like a story, and you don't have to buy the story. You don't have to buy that book and read it and listen to the directions. Like you can
Stop buying what America sells you,
you know.
motherfucker.
So for me, I guess that's what I just realized now. And I'm sure my brother can give me some insight on what he thinks about what I just said there. That kind of was a thought that I had just now about that.
That's everything I touch on with creativity and ambiguity replacing ego. With if you can replace, so in Ryan Holiday's book, Ego is the Enemy, he talks about replacing ego at a young age and giving our children awareness to ego and the bad habits it builds in us. So he says in his book, shout out to Ryan Holiday, Ego is the Enemy, one of my favorite books. He says that if at a young age we can breed self-awareness and ambiguities and openness to creative expression, then we can stunt the growth of ego. But the problem is none of our school systems are doing that. So I think a big part of everything that we do with More Love Nation, I saw it firsthand when we launched it. Shout out to Adam Rohde. He was the first one to give me this perspective. And then who was the other one? Shout out to the cat at Skywalk. I forget his name. He's the dishwasher and the cook at Skywalk Theater. But he mentioned on the comment, I posted a video of my creative expression, which is an ambiguity. It's an openness to different interpretation and perspective of an object or an item or something I made. And then he said it was wrong. And I was like, wow, this makes so much sense. When you push art and creativity and ambiguity forward, it's the complete opposite of ego. So I think what you just talked about is the answer. It's the openness to inexactness, and it's the openness to ambiguities and people's imperfections, shortcomings, defects, and being different and having different perspectives and different beliefs and whatever I am, my ambiguities. We all have ambiguities. So I think that's a huge, profound topic. We could lean into all these different things. But at the end of the day, I think it just simply comes down to the fact that we're not investing enough in our human capital and we're not bringing people the intangible tools they need to be who they want to be. And I think, like you just said, America sells us on all of it. So it's a big deal. It's a big topic, and it's a lot of stuff to kind of digest and talk about. But it's really big. It's really, really kind of what I would spend the rest of my life talking about. But for me, I just think there's a lot of people that, I don't know, aren't committed to themselves. And I think it's remarkable how many people are not committed to themselves. And then they don't have patience with themselves.
Yeah, and I think patience, too, is the key to be able to be... It's just patience is key. Even if you're trying to be committed to yourself, people move and learn and grow at different paces than other people. And it's like, that patience is so key for me that I've learned with growth, that like we are human. We're going to fall. We're going to make mistakes. And that's the opposite of what society, again, is telling us, because back to expectations, like if we could stop putting so much expectations on people that society is doing and push them to focus on gratitude and humility and trying different things and allowing themselves to fail and allowing themselves to be vulnerable, that's the key that I think is the solution to getting more people to be patient. But I feel like because of all these things and the stuff that my brother talked about, it's really difficult to be patient. This is simple, but I believe it's difficult with society because everyone believes what society tells us. And
I think it's simple. I think
it is simple. That's what I just said. It's simple, but it's not easy.
I think it is easy. If you start living out, it's all about being time poor. If you're in time rich, now it all shifts overnight. If overnight you had no rent and you had no bills, it would all shift. If you lived out,
doesn't necessarily mean that person's going to be patient though, even if they did those things. But again, like we said before, it's both those things.
Yeah,
that's important. Like that point is very key that you're making. I agree with you. But again, you could be doing that and have a really fucked up scarcity mindset, and it's not going to work out.
Totally.
You get homeless people because they use drugs. They're scarce. It doesn't matter what. It's like it has to do with a combination of, like my brother said, being committed or allowing yourself to remove yourself from those tie downs, but also being humble and gratitude and allowing yourself to not have to be perfect. and be what society's telling you and do it and have the answers and results now.
It's okay to be inexact.
Yeah, it's like that is so key. And I think wrapping this up full circle
To
what we always do here.
No half circle. No half circle bullshit.
And this is how I'll bring it back to allowing yourself to be patient. And this is where I need to grow more and do this. And this is what a podcast has done for me and my brother. And even music or art. Anytime I've done anything that's made me be vulnerable, sharing my addiction story, acting, filmmaking, music, podcasting. This at social media, right? Like Gary Vee says, you shouldn't be content creating. This is brand storytelling. You should be documenting your story about your journey to being who you are. Not trying to market that I'm a 30-year-old life coach.
Swimming in my mama's pool in the Hamptons.
Not even that. That I'm a 30-year-old life coach who, if you need advice, call me and it's $5,000 a month, versus me documenting and sharing my story of everything I failed to do that's led me to be where I am today and doing what I'm doing. So it's just like allowing people into who I am in my story and my journey, and that my journey is always changing.
Sorry about that, folks.
That I'm not actually just sharing my outside qualifications and educations and yada 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 and I'm this perfect coach.
That's ego.
But actually just documenting who I am and being authentic in
my
that
journey.
And sharing my journey. And that's what people love. That's what I love. When I see people online doing that, like artists, I actually gravitate to them more and I become a fan versus someone who comes off as Mr. Know-It-All and never shares their pain. So I think full circle, like my brother says, like with podcasting and storytelling, that is the way I can practice doing that. That's going to get me there, but it's not easy to do. And again, while I'm doing this, I still need to be grateful and humble, because if I start to do this or anything that we're saying, my ego can get in the way. I can make it about me again. I can stop being authentic and vulnerable on my computer here, and I can start acting like I'm Mr. Know-It-All. I can start saying I know stuff, but if I don't do that and I just stay rooted in my experience and I stay rooted in my failures and my journey that I'm still evolving as a human at age 30, about to be 31 tomorrow, no one can take that away from me. No one can say that I'm wrong. No one can say that. To me, that's so important. And then, like my brother says, to be able to own the fact that my failures or lack of success or not being where I want to be is no one else's fault but mine, because I haven't maximized my time and energy and money to where it needs to go for me to get there. So that's the key that, like my brother talks about, to wrap all it up full circle. That's how I just thought about right now.
Full circle. No half circle bullshit.
And again, this to me, like my brother thinks it's easy, but I think it's simple but not easy. I think if it was easy, everyone would do it.
That's exactly what the Scrum
But
Master
it is
says.
simple.
The most simple things are the most complex to
This
master.
is really simple. So there is no way to make excuse. I can't sit here and make excuse to anyone if I'm not doing something in my life or I'm not where I want to be. I don't make excuses. I'm aware of it, but I don't complain. I'm like, yeah, you should do more in some area, or I should probably do this. But I'm in a really good place now in my life that I'm humble and gratitude. So it always gives me opportunities. Like, I am a type of person that has unlimited opportunities. My brother is too. He could shut this down and work out in a week or a month from now. There's opportunities. When you're rooted in that, it doesn't matter what fails. There's always more abundance down the road.
That's the openness.
That's the openness and truly I can't fail. To me, failing is only quitting.
It's only if I die, if I kill myself. That's the only way you can lose, folks. That's the only
Or
way
quitting.
That's the only way you fail or lose, is if you give up on life and die.
What about just quitting, though? I guess that's an extreme example of quitting. But you can be alive and quit on life and just stop doing anything.
But still, you have a chance.
You still have a chance.
Alive.
You're right, because you can pivot and change. So I guess that is true. My brother says, unless you're dead, it's not over. But I truly believe the only people that fail is they quit. And I think that's one of the biggest.
There's so many quitters, though. Everyone, if you audit what you just said, we could do a whole other episode on quitting. Almost everyone in America and the world has quit on themselves.
But again, until they're 70 or 80 and dying, I wouldn't say they have quit yet. Because
yes,
again,
but it's
they're not dead or alive. They're not dead yet, so they can still change or get.
But you better start swinging, right? Because I'm going to lean into that, and I'm
yeah.
Just
So
gonna
you
wrap
got
it
to
up.
swing at some point.
You better start swinging. That's why at 21 I started swinging and hacking away at I want to die. I say I want to die on my own sword. I want to stand in the batter's box of life, and if I'm going to strike out, I'm going to strike out I'm going to swing. I'm not going to look back and be like, I had a chance at life and I didn't swing for the fences. I'm swinging, and that's what I'm doing here every day on a daily basis, is I'm swinging for the fences with my dreams and doing good and being of service and trying to use my failures and shortcomings and defects to bring value forward. And I think that's exactly what my brother said. And it then opens
But allow yourself to miss.
And then it opens me up to empathize with others. Even if I'm messed up on the show, we have a bad show, I have a bad day, I'm not perfect. I'm a human. But at the same time, I'm opening myself up to connecting with others and empathizing and connecting with you via my shortcomings, defects, and failures. And to me, that's what life's all about. The amount of money that comes in is irrelevant. I could get a call tomorrow from Stadium Red. Shout out to Claude Zidane from Stadium Red. He's the CEO and owner of Stadium Red. It's a music group. And if they called me tomorrow and said, we want to give you $50,000 to work with Weirman Media, but then I ask them what their mission is, and I see that they're trying to manipulate or do some kind of bullshit, I'm going to say no. I have gotten to a spot in my life where I no longer have to say yes just for the money. So I think that's a powerful thing, is auditing, and I want to challenge everyone to ask yourself, are you saying yes just for the money? Are you saying yes just for the money? Why are you doing what you're doing, and why aren't you doing more of what you love, want, need, and desire?
Very key. And I think to sum this up for me, again, I'll wrap it up with the humility and the gratitude no matter what I'm doing, and then the patience is, like, to simplify it, allowing myself to swing and miss, in a baseball term. Allowing myself to strike out and not judge myself, but being able to take that experience and audit why I struck out and be able to learn from that and move on without breaking the bat and saying, fuck baseball, I'm never going to go to the plate ever again, versus allowing myself to swing again, allowing myself to change my form. You know, maybe I need a new stance.
Maybe I need to look
maybe
at
I should be
a better part of the team.
Yeah, maybe I'm on the wrong team. Maybe I don't like pinch hitting. Maybe I want to be a pitcher. I don't know. I don't even know what that means. But
no, but exactly.
Pitchers are the most athletic to athletes. No,
auditing where we are.
That means you're probably ego, because the pitcher is the one the most control of the game. But anyways, I think my brother made a good point. Allowing myself to swing and miss. I have struck out many times in my life, guaranteed. Relationships, helping someone start a business, different jobs, moving to Hawaii. Whatever, but
striking out's not losing the game.
No, I get up, and I move on. And the key is I hit 300, which is Hall of Fame. So that's all I'm really focused going on is 3 for 10.
I only need 3 out of 10.
I have the 3 for 10. Like, I know we talked about having high expectations for yourself, but reality, I gotta be honest, I'm just shooting for 3 for 10.
Dude, 300's Hall of Fame.
That's Hall of Fame in baseball. Hall of Fame. I mean, it's shitty in basketball or football numbers, but as far as Hall of Fame baseball numbers, like if you miss 2/3 of the time, you keep swinging, you're hitting 1 out of 3, you're gonna be 10 times ahead of everyone else. So, but I guess for me, again, to sum this up, I allow myself to swing and be humble and grateful. And again, if I go too far into an extreme, if I go way into ego, I'm controlling everything and it's about me. If I go too far into patience, I'm actually procrastinating and not doing what my brother says and actually taking action. I'm just sitting on my ass waiting for the perfect time when there never really is a perfect time. So where is that balance in the middle? That's the juice that we're talking about here, of the humility, the gratitude, and like my brother says, finding the audit of how you can free up your time to not make excuses while allowing myself to fail and swing. And especially if you're 30 and under, I feel like this is super important for you. But I think if you're 40 and under, because if we're living to 80 years old almost, that means 40 or under is not even halfway through our lives. And I think that's really important that we need to allow ourselves that, because I really feel like if anyone does this, and I continue doing this, by 40, I think everyone will find who they really are at that point. And to me, that's like you're not even halfway through the game and you found yourself and your passion. So like, I don't care if you're 39 right now. I feel like you're still early in the stages. Gary Vee says it all the time. He's just beginning and he's 44. Again, like my brother.
There's a reason Gary Vee does that, folks. It's because he leans into our misperception of
time and speed. So like again, my brother said that's so true. So again,
that's what Gary's trying to correct.
Yeah. So again, for me, that's the key. But it's the extreme that's really bad, and that's all I have to say is like, and I'm guilty of this. Am I really ego-driven, thinking I know everything, wanting to do and control of everything? Or am I just so patient that I'm waiting for the perfect time? I've been both of these places.
And both are fear, ego, and
both
insecurity.
Fear, insecurity. The middle ground is a place where you're taking action, but you're not forcing anything. You're having fun, like my brother says. You're not doing something just to make money. There's no rush. There's a flow and happiness to it all. And when I get there, it doesn't. The what I'm doing doesn't matter. I can get there, and I'll be able to eventually find my niche of what truly is my niche. And I've dabbled in a lot of things, and sometimes it's not even one thing. I don't think I'll ever do one thing. I have so many interests that it's really hard for me to do one thing. But you do have to eventually, this is my experience, you do have to eventually say no to some stuff. You can only do so many things at once. You can't say yes to everything. So that's another thing that we can talk about when we talk about commitment.
But we're going to wrap this puppy up.
But I do think that's key, is allowing yourself to try different things and swing and miss and stay in that balance. You know, again, it's really simple, but it's not easy. Like my brother says, if it was, everyone would be doing it. Super fun to talk about patience. I think whenever I audit my patience where I'm at in my life, it's a good key. Is my ego and fear taking over? Or am I in a spiritual place of happiness? And I'm super grateful for all the opportunities. Like, I'm at a place now where I'm happy for any opportunity that comes my way, and I have the ability to say yes or no, and nothing's wrong or right. Like, I have unlimited opportunities. It's crazy. And I think it's the same thing my brother says. He has opportunities with businesses to take deals, but he doesn't have to take it because he's not going to take something just for money. He's at a place where he's audited himself, and he realizes it's more important to do business and relationships with people that really believe in what he believes in and what they believe in the mission, and not just a monetary transaction because it's going to make you money or make him or her or her money.
It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, it's a really good place to be in because relationships and dynamics aren't forced. They naturally go where they need to be, and then that's super cool, and that's what patience is. So I hope you got something out of this. This is a lifelong test that I'm still not
And
perfect
it's something
in.
you could talk about all day in all our life.
And I think patience is key. And again, for me, it's the balance of finding the middle. That's what I'm always trying to do. I tend to go to extremes. That's my MO as a person in recovery. I'm really extreme, and I find that it's really bad to be on extremes. It's really good to be in the middle because it's a really sane, logical place to be, and it's easy to communicate that when I'm there. So for me, that's my experience, and I got nothing else to add.
I think that's great stuff, Zaya. Thanks for being on the show. I appreciate you, and I'm going to wrap it up by saying, at Weirman Media, we are looking for a creator. If you want to be a part of the team that is focused, committed, courageous, respectful, and open, all the 5 key, most important characteristics when it comes to being patient is being courageous, it's being committed, it's being focused, it's being respectful, and it's being open to opportunities. That's what we represent here at Weirman Media. That's what we're about. And if anyone is interested, are you a creator? Are you an artist? Are you a writer? Are you a math person? Any of those. Anyone, please do reach out if you want to share your story. Lean into that. Lean into your creativity and come be a part of something that is bigger than me, and it's about we. So that's what Women Media is looking for. We're expanding, we're growing, and we want more people to be involved that want to be part of the team that is focused, courageous, committed, open, and respectful of pursuing our wants, needs, and desires and meeting your wants, needs, and desires. So once again, thank you. It's not right. It is not wrong. At Weirman Media, it is simply our perspective. Gangsta. Yeah, that was pretty good. A little bit.